Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Menopause Sisterhood. Welcome to 5 days of feeling fantastic Q&A session. You have questions and I have the answers, I hope. So this Q&A comes as part of a bonus session from the 5 days of feeling fantastic experience. So everyone who is participating in the experience, this is the time for you to ask questions. I have already received questions offline from people, so I'm very excited to answer them and any other questions that may come up at the moment. So let me just check that you can all hear me and that there are no issues. Yes. So as I said, this is a bonus session. We are meeting every day live during the 5 days of feeling fantastic. We have so far completed day 3. We still have day 4 and day 5. And questions have come up about menopause symptoms, about hormones, about strategies, about treatment, about how to navigate this time. So I always give, when I ever do these experiences, these 5-day experiences, I always give a chance for question and answers, for you to clarify certain things that maybe you're dealing with, or things that have come up as a result of the daily lives. And so now we have our Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. If you are watching this on replay, feel free to ask questions in the comments and I will answer them. I will come back and answer them. And if you are watching me live, then you absolutely are free to ask questions. But as I said, I have received questions offline already. So I'm going to start with those and answer those questions. And then we'll see how we go and we'll see how long this Q&A session is. So the first question that I was asked, which actually is quite a deep and interesting question, is if you say that menopause journey, perimenopause, is a natural, normal, hormonally fluctuating time, then when you talk about hormonal imbalance, how does that sort of fit in with the fact that this is a natural, hormonally out of balance stage of our lives? Which I think is an excellent question, because it is true that perimenopause, menopause is a natural hormonal fluctuating time. Our hormones are not predictable. They are not as to be expected during our, from puberty till perimenopause, when our cycles are more or less predictable. Our body knows what to expect. There is a menstrual cycle where our estrogen, our progesterone, our LH, luteinizing hormone, and FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and our testosterone are all doing predictable things. But then comes perimenopause and all bets are off and hormones are all over the place, which impacts our body in so many ways. But because this is normal, so maybe the symptoms are to be expected. Maybe this is part of what menopause means, the pain, suffering, struggle, menopause symptoms. Because this is the normal hormonal imbalance that happens. So this is a really great question. So I want to clarify this issue. The first thing is, yes, this is a normal, natural stage of our lives where our hormones are in flux. However, the extent to which hormones fluctuate is impacted by, one, how we arrive at perimenopause. So what has been going on with our hormones and our health prior to perimenopause, and not just our reproductive hormones, but cortisol, our stress hormone, insulin, our blood regulating hormone, our thyroid hormones, our feel-good hormones, the oxytocin, endorphins, serotonins. What is going on with those hormones in the lead up to perimenopause? That's the first thing. And the second thing is, does our lifestyle support as much as possible and nourish us as much as possible in perimenopause and menopause. So are we actually exacerbating our hormonal fluctuations during this stage of life because of habits, stress, sleep, what we eat, how we move? So yes, despite the fact that this is a normal hormonal fluctuating time, we actually have the power to impact the extent to which our hormones are fluctuating. And that is why many women experience perimenopause and menopause with minimal symptoms, with symptoms that do not impact their daily functioning life, sometimes with no symptoms. So if we have that cohort of women that are not suffering, struggling, and are able to navigate menopause relatively easy, we know that that is possible. And we have to ask, why are these women, why is this group of women able to navigate it in a, productive, joyous and successful way? And why are there cohorts of women that do not have that experience? And very, very often, sometimes it's genetic, sometimes it is genetic, but very often it is about the strategies that they have put in place, either as perimenopause has started or prior to perimenopause. It's not just a fluke often. So that, I think, is the answer to why we're talking about hormonal imbalance and trying to create hormonal health and hormonal balance when menopause is a natural hormonal fluctuating time. So that is because, as I've just explained, there is a natural range, but it can be exacerbated, it can be triggered by other things that are going on, this pre-hormonal imbalance or things that we are doing during menopause. Another question that I was asked was that I talk a lot about the triggers for hormonal imbalance, and this person wanted to know a little bit more about understanding stress, the role that stress plays in hormonal imbalance, and if really these things are so important. So yes, the triggers for hormonal imbalance are very, very important, because our body, the cornerstone of women's health, is hormonal health, not just in menopause, but throughout our whole life cycle. And anything that sets off our hormones to be out of balance, to live in an unhealthy state, is going to trigger some type of ill health. Sometimes it can be minimal. Sometimes it can start off slow and it can get worse and worse. Many chronic conditions, such as, firstly, any of the menopause symptoms, brain fog, cognitive function, low energy, feeling lethargic, not being able to focus and concentrate, not being able to, levels of anxiety, lower levels of anxiety and depression, even physical symptoms such as hair falling out, or weight gain, or diabetes, or cardio, heart issues, or blood pressure issues, high cholesterol. A lot of these things have their root cause not only in what you're eating and how you exercise, but also in the overall hormonal imbalance in your body, very often triggered by or exacerbated by stress. And there are lots of different types of stress. Stress is not a one-size stress thing. There are a few different types of stress, but the body interprets stress as stress, and the body's response to stress will pretty much always be the same. But if you have, and that is, cortisol, activation of the adrenal glands, activation of cortisol and adrenaline, and then that has major knock-on effects on how our body responds, because our body is responding to a threat, a stress trigger. It wants us to be aware and alert. What's going on? How do I need to respond? But when we have these chronic stress situations, whether it be from work pressures or family pressures or lifestyle, Our body is a constant state of alert and never has the chance to come down and to come out of the stressful state, and never gives the body a chance to rejuvenate and replenish itself. So stress is absolutely a major hormonal imbalance trigger. And we need to look at your specific situation. What are you experiencing? What are your symptoms? Have you had some type of chronic ill health that actually may be perimenopause or maybe something else? And can we look at the role that stress may play in creating that hormonal imbalance that is creating that ill health or menopause symptom? The other thing which I talked about today in our session 3, in our day 3, is about gut health. And gut health is another real major factor and contributor to hormonal imbalance. It comes in with all different names: digestive issues, gut health, gut microbiome, leaky gut, which is an extreme case of gut issues, or such things as irritable bowel, which again is a more extreme case of digestive issues. Today in day 3, we talked about bloating, constipation, diarrhea, gas, stomach cramps. All these are signs of hormonal imbalance in the gut. Again, that is exacerbated during perimenopause and menopause, but you may have been experiencing these things for a while without noticing, or with ignoring it, or thinking, I can manage, I can survive. Take the the digestive medications, whether it be anti-reflux or, any of the digestive medications that people are taking to sort of stop or hide their digestive problems, and just sort of get on with it without realizing that actually it is a sign from your body that there is a deeper thing going on. As well as with cognitive brain function, which is very classic menopause, perimenopause symptoms, which a lot of women really don't attribute to perimenopause. That brain fog, not being able, and brain fog is known as a menopause symptom, but often women don't really identify it, especially if you're in perimenopause. Brain fog, forgetfulness, short-term memory loss. That example of putting your keys in the fridge, not remembering where you place things. It's not just sort of busy running around. It's actual much deeper. Forgetting words and sentences, not being able to focus, not being able to complete tasks, especially if you are a professional woman who has responsibilities, has a leadership role in your workplace, and you may not be functioning at the level that you expect of yourself, that you used to be able to function at. All of a sudden, you actually are not really functioning correctly, and maybe you're hiding it. Maybe you're working really hard to cover it up. Maybe you are actually failing at your job, and you're not quite sure what's going on. Many women get very scared. They have early onset dementia. Most regularly, it is perimenopause, menopause, and it happens, but it is, yes, because of our hormonal fluctuations. Sometimes it is exacerbated by hormonal fluctuations, and there is plenty that we can do to help support our brain health during this time, once we've identified it, once we know that this is happening. The final question that has been asked to me, and if you have any more questions, please drop them in the comments. You can also DM me if you don't want to ask your question publicly, and you can ask your question privately to me, and I can discuss it anonymously in the Facebook group, in the Menopause Sisterhood. So feel free to drop me any questions that you have. But the final question that I'm being asked is always about my strategies. What do I do? How do I feel better in perimenopause? How do I navigate these symptoms? How do I get rid of these symptoms? What do I do? So when I work with my clients, I work from a very personalized approach. It is very much specific to the woman that is in front of me, her story, her journey, her symptoms. However, there are some basic things that obviously I am looking at. Firstly, I am looking at the triggers for hormonal imbalance, and we look at each of those triggers and see within those areas of the hormonal triggers, what can we adjust? Where do we have to remove things? Where do we have to add things? Where can we change or tweak things that you're doing? How can you support and nourish yourself? Maybe using supplements or breath work. My approach is a holistic, integrative approach, drawing on a lot of the things that I am trained in with a functional medicine background and based in yoga tools and techniques. So it is quite broad. I am bringing in a lot of the things that I am trained in, especially within the yoga modality, Yoga for Women's Health. And yoga absolutely is one of the core modalities that I use to support women, to help them navigate and manage this stage of life. But yoga is not the only tool that I use. I bring in a functional medicine approach. I bring in a holistic approach. I'm looking at really each of those 5 areas of hormonal imbalance: stress, nutrition, sleep, movement, and self-care, or work-life balance. It was called work-life balance. I'm sort of changing that phrase to self-care. And in each of those 5 areas, there are plenty of strategies that you can do to help you support your hormonal balance, treat or relieve your menopause symptoms. So each of those 5 areas has its own strategies, from a functional medicine approach and a yoga-based approach. So that's the way that I work with my clients. I just want to say one word about functional medicine. Many of you may be familiar with the term. Some of you may not be familiar with the term. Functional medicine is a new or more contemporary approach to medicine, where we are looking at the root causes of disease and symptoms. We are not looking at to treat only the symptoms. We ask, why do you have those symptoms? How can we look at the root cause of those symptoms, and how can we address your symptoms from a systematic body approach, looking at the different systems in your body: digestive, thyroid, reproductive, adrenal, immune systems in your body, and how can we start to identify and peel back the layers of where the root causes or the roots of your health challenges are, and how can we start to make changes at the root of how those systems are working to support, nourish, and really make sure that these systems are not being detrimental and causing ill health, but are working to the best of their abilities to create good health. So that is really a functional medicine approach, which is the approach that I adopt when I am working with my clients. So I hope that has answered some of the questions. If you have more specific questions, feel free, as I said, to either DM me or put your questions in the comments, and I will come back to you. Make sure you stay tuned for day 4 and day 5 of the 5 days of feeling fantastic. If you have not seen the videos of day 1, 2, and 3, check them out in the Menopause Sisterhood. They are all there in the feed, ready and waiting for you to watch them. And I wish you a fantastic day, and I am here to carry on answering any of your questions whenever you have.